What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Scale News Update. If you're not familiar with the show, this is where we talk about the news topics that happened over the last week in the scale world of RC. This last week was kind of slow. We had Mother's Day weekend and not a lot happens around that time normally, but we still did have a few news topics and we've got some questions this week. So let's jump into this week's topics. First on our list is Knight Customs released some parts for the new Axial UMG. The Axial UMG comes out of the box with a molded hard plastic grille on the front, but it's more of a boxy and angular style design, looking more modern rather than traditional Unimog. But if you're more of a fan of that traditional style of the original Unimogs, you can pick up this Knight Customs version, which is made for round style headlights that use axial light buckets in the back to fill that void. There's two versions of the grille available, one with an axial logo in the center and one without. Alongside the grille option parts, he's also got a light bar mount that allows you to mount a 6-inch LED light bar across the top of the windshield. I'll put a link in the description below where you can find any of these parts that you'd like to add to your UMG. Next, we've got a release from Cross RC and their first ready-to-run trail truck. They'll be offering the FR4 Demon version in this ready-to-run package. Pre-painted body, of course, like you would normally expect. This one does have stickers over the windows rather than clear windows, so some of their scale detail is coming down, but underneath we've got the Demon platform. It does have a front mounted motor and then a scale style transfer case. It does look like it's using a common OEM Hobby Wing ESC. I don't recognize this radio specifically, but I'm sure it's just of the affordable variation that we're used to seeing come out of an overseas product like this. Street price on the vehicle looks to be $349. I imagine that availability will be a little bit more limited as Cross RC is not widely carried all over, but it is starting to become more and more popular. And then we've got a little bit more information on something that came out of the Hobby Expo over in China a couple of weeks ago, and this is something from KO Propo, and it's called the MC8 controller. Now this is a radio system from KO Propo that's shaped less like a traditional RC controller, either pistol grip style or airplane style, and it's more along the lines of something like a PlayStation or Xbox type controller with two joysticks and then a number of switches throughout. I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm sure it will be much more familiar to a lot of people. And it sounds like they're trying to kind of aim this towards things like boats and robots and cars and even planes. But looks like it's going to have 8 channels, but it doesn't have a display or anything like that, so not sure if you're having to program it through a PC or something along those lines, or if it's going to be much more simple. But I would hope that if they're going to do this and they're aiming it towards something with a lot of channels, that they're going to have the ability to program it. Hopefully that's via PC. But for now, we'll just have to wait and see what details come out and what the price point is going to be. This upcoming Wednesday, the Traxxas TRX4 budget build gets kicked off with myself and Matt from the Scale Builders Guild. If you're not familiar with the budget build series that I've done in the past, basically what we do is we take a stock vehicle and then every week we upgrade it with 50 bucks. Turns out to be quite the vehicle in the end. Not trying to make the cheapest one, just trying to make something on a set budget. So if you're interested in that one, make sure and check out the updates every Wednesday. This coming weekend is Proline by the Fire, going to be a massive event. I'm sure one of the bigger events out here on the West Coast this year. Hopefully some of you guys are going to be able to make it. I'm going to be there from Friday to Sunday, so if you're at the event, make sure come say hi. But that pretty much wraps up the actual news for this week. I did post up asking for questions on Instagram today and got a handful. Most of them are leaning more towards the fun side, so we'll run through a few of them quickly. First one says, should rally cars make a comeback? When was the last time you drove one? I always thought the rally car thing was pretty cool. It was more along the lines of what I enjoyed as far as like scale and slightly off-road. And then I know there was actually some pretty cool scaled out rally tracks that I saw. I know there was a group in Colorado who had a fun series where they did everything from racing their rally stuff normally all the way to ice racing in the winter. Definitely was something I wanted to try. I think they were using Tamiya bases. I think the reason I always liked them is because when I saw those guys racing those around the little rally circuits they had made and wherever area they were actually running behind them normally rather than standing on a driver's stand. And that's really the only way I think I can drive an RC vehicle is when I'm actually behind it. I'm terrible from a driver's stand. The next question says, will you come to Iceland and take one of your rigs with you? From RC_Iceland. I would love to go to Iceland. I think, however, the next trip I make to that part of the world will probably be to Norway. So I don't know if I'll make it over to Iceland in the near future, but it's definitely a place I'd love to visit. And I know there's a lot of off-roading that goes on in that part of the world, so another reason I'd really like to make that trip. This question says, ideal rig to start building something competitive, say TTC or Sorka events. I think it all depends on what class and what type of event you're really looking for. You know, TTC, normally larger AR60 based, or sometimes just XR with modded type axles. But if you're looking to do Sorka, again, it depends, class 1, 2, or 3, depends on how wide you want to go. And if you're looking to be competitive, you know, it depends on how competitive. You know, there's competitive while being fun, and there's competitive and building something purely to the sake of meeting the rules, but maybe not to the spirit of the rules, which is always going to be a debate when you're looking at scale competition. As far as the ideal rig for a starting point, you know, you can make a lot of things competitive, just depends on the route and the style you want to go for. This one says, we just want an Ultra Fusion update. I don't really have much of an update. If I showed you the car right now, it would look exactly like you saw it in the last video. No wrap added, no nothing. I didn't have time to do the wrap, anything like that. What I do have is 3 cans of spray paint sitting on top of it right now to hopefully add just a little bit more design before the event, because I'm out of time. I've been swamped and I just haven't had a chance to do anything further. But it's running, and it's going to be at Proline by the Fire for the finale of Matt and I's Monthly Mayhem series. And for the last question of this week, this one says, what is the dumbest real car you would drive be? I get what the actual question is, and that's a tough one. But it all depends, as if you're saying I have to drive it every day, or if I just get to own it and drive it every once in a while, you know, things like that. I would love to drive a Reliant Robin one time, just because huge Top Gear fan, and watching them roll that car over looks fun. So that would be cool. However, I would never want to drive it on California streets because people here cannot drive in the slightest. I've actually always kind of wanted to drive one of those Scion IQs. It's like a smart car, but even weirder looking. Again, I wouldn't want to drive one every day. I wouldn't want to drive one on California streets. And really, I don't have any idea what I would do to it, but still, I want to try it. Then beyond that, there's a huge list of terrible cars that I'd be interested in owning. Currently, a good friend of mine from back home and I have been cooperating on a very terrible idea that we're going to take a 2000 Honda CR-V and transform it into the dumbest thing you've ever seen. And I'm really looking forward to that, and I fully plan to document it on YouTube when we do it. It's going to be kind of one of those, I'm going to fly back home, we're going to do 4 days of crazy work on it, and then I'll fly it here. Then fly back one more time, maybe a couple of more days of thrashing, and then we're going to try and drive it from there to here, with many adventurous stops along the way. The best I could say is if you take that Honda CR-V and cross Leroy with just a regular off-road buggy, that's the terrible idea. But with that, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to round out this week's Scale News Update. Hope you have an awesome rest of the week. I hope I see a bunch of you guys at Proline by the Fire. Make sure to hit the like button if you enjoy these videos. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you on the next one.